Yeah, no. You guys are putting on a show tonight. All right. Okay, good evening, everybody. It is just after 7 p.m. on August 27th, 2026. My name is Peter Beardmore. I'm the Vice Chair of the Finance Committee. Chris Menard, our Chair, is traveling this week and is unavailable, so I will be serving in his stead. This is a meeting of the Lunenburg Finance Committee, which will include a public hearing within the meeting, and I will go ahead and read the preamble. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and on Facebook Live on public access, the public access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided in this notice. We are at the Lunenburg Middle High School Collaborative Room. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while the option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with public interest in any specific item on the agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. The following information is provided for members of the public that would like to participate. It has all the Zoom information that is posted on the agenda, which is posted on the town website. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken because of these discussions. Not all items listed may be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent allowed by open meeting law. Would everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any announcements from members of the board? Are there any announcements from members of the public or the administration? Okay. We did not have a chair's report listed on the agenda, so I'm going to use the announcements portion to just make a couple of announcements about tonight's meeting. First, I want to thank our folks from PAC. At our last meeting 2 weeks ago, Chris mentioned that the meeting would be held here for the public hearing. And there was a discussion that ensued following the last meeting about some technical difficulties that we had had and the challenges of broadcasting both on Channel 9 and on Facebook Live. I think a lot of work went on between PAC and our IT department, and I believe not only are we broadcasting tonight live, but to my knowledge, this is the first 3-camera shoot we've had in this room. So I think that's pretty cool. So thank you guys, and thank you, Joe, and our IT departments for making this all happen.
Where's the third camera?
It's behind you, right there. Or you can't see it, but it'll get the people at the table. Great question. The schedule. So tonight's public hearing for the 3 articles that will be included for the special town meeting, which is scheduled for 7 p.m. next Thursday here at the Lunenburg Middle High School auditorium, includes some articles that in particular Article 3, that it became clear to me over the course of the last day or two that we are not going to have all of the information that we need in terms of, in particular, the funding source required for Article 3. And we'll talk about that in some detail during the public hearing when Article 3 comes up. But suffice to say, there is a select board meeting next Tuesday where some activity needs to take place. There's a school committee meeting next Wednesday where some activity also needs to take place, and then the special town meeting is the next day, Thursday. I think that there's a very likely scenario that, and I don't want to prejudice us here, but that we are going to need to either meet with a special meeting prior to that meeting to nail down our recommendations. In particular, my concern is for Article 3. Or we are going to need to caucus during the meeting, and I'm a little bit concerned that that could be a prolonged discussion. So with that in mind, I've circulated via email to all of you today the possibility or the proposal of meeting before special town meeting. We'll discuss that later on for the next meeting, part of the agenda, but I just wanted to, in advance, make everybody aware that that was the basis of my thinking, and more of that detail will be kind of shaken out over the course of the meeting tonight. Lastly, public comment for this meeting. There are actually going to be multiple opportunities for public comment because this is a public hearing within a finance committee meeting. So we will have our regularly scheduled public comment at the beginning and at the end of the meeting, but we will take the articles in order. We will have the petitioner present any new information relative to the article that we have not, that may be relevant to the discussion. And I will open public comment relative to each article during the public hearing. So there's literally at least 5 opportunities for public comment at tonight's meeting. And with that said, let's open the first public comment. Is there any public comment from the public? Seeing none online and none in the room, we can move to the next agenda item, the Town Manager and Finance Director reports. Madam Town Manager, is there any report? Fantastic. We are moving right along. Agenda item number 6, public hearing. I would entertain a motion to enter into our public hearing for the special town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I for myself. We are officially entering a public hearing. Okay, so we are going to take the warrant articles in order. As I think most people are aware, the school committee met last evening, and there's been considerable discussion and consideration and some new news relative to a grant relating to school district funding. So I'd like to invite the superintendent and or school committee representative to come and talk about that. Dr. Fortuna, you're going to be sharing slides?
Yes.
Okay. Kara, can you make Dr. Fortuna a co-host? Or I guess I could probably do it, yeah. No? Oh, you're good. You're good.
All right.
Perfect.
Brings me back.
Okay.
Are these the slides you shared already
Yeah.
today?
They are
Okay,
slides I
perfect.
shared earlier
Awesome.
today.
Evening, Dr. Fortuna.
Good evening. How is everyone tonight?
Good.
So the school committee met last night, and we brought forward 3 different scenarios for the school committee to consider. This board may recall at your last meeting, I was asked what I would do should we receive the grant for our Ignite tutoring seats. We did receive the grant for many of our Ignite tutoring seats, not all of the Ignite tutoring seats that were in our initial ask, nor as many as we had the year prior in the grant. We received a grant for 36 Ignite tutoring seats. They're focused, the state grant is focused largely on grade 1. However, that did give us the opportunity, Dr. Sarfti, our Director of Teaching and Learning, and I, to discuss if we could make do with those 36 seats we determined that we could, which freed up some money in our original spending plan that we presented to you. So you'll recall from that original plan that you saw 2 weeks ago that there was $129,458, and that was marked for Ignite tutoring seats. Because we received the grant, this $129,458, we wanted to reallocate in our original spending plan, thus the 3 scenarios that I brought to school committee tonight. This evening, I'll only be discussing the voted scenario by the school committee. Before we begin, it's important that everybody understands that our current revolving account status as of 8/13 for athletics was $151,421.83. We had expended at that point so far $859.08 from that account. This is important because you'll see that our plan this evening discusses restoring high school athletic transportation. So there's some good news on the transportation front. We had approximately $124,000 originally in the budget prior to athletic transportation being cut. This was based on prior years. However, because we were not offering athletic transportation, this allowed us a chance to do a zero-based budgeting exercise, basically, with our athletic transportation. And this allowed us to reduce the cost of high school, or find savings that we can confidently project in high school transportation, so that it's only approximately $60,000, which is half of what we originally thought it was. Many people have asked me, how is this possible? And it's really due to the hard work of our former athletic director and the doggedness of our current athletic director. So our budgets were updated with actual round-trip quotes based on this year's official athletic schedules for the fall and winter, rather than broad estimates from prior years. In addition, we are using last year's actuals to account for the spring. This team may recall that we received earmark funding to purchase 2 10-passenger vans. Those vans have been purchased. They will be here sometime in the November timeframe. Prior to them being used, we have some impact bargaining that we need to do with our partners at the Lunenburg Education Association. We have some scheduling to do around classes that a 7D driver has to take. And so it's a process to get these up and running. Our athletic director, Mr. Papazian, believes that these will be online for the spring, and the sports that they'll probably be most useful for are baseball and softball, given the size of those teams. So when we started this budgeting, the zero-based budgeting exercise, we knew what our fall and winter schedules were, and like I said before, we know what our actuals were for the spring. Given the projections are based on strategic venue optimization, so this is something that our former athletic director, knowing that Ms. Burns, knowing that this was going to happen, set up very nicely for us. She really scheduled the fall and winter sports prior to her departure. And she attempted to schedule more home games and competitions that were closer to the actual school, thus cutting down on the transportation mileage that was needed. And then, again, as at the risk of repeating myself, programmatic scheduling to reduce the distance travel. Mr. Papazian had a discussion with T-Bus Service, went through the schedule, went through the actuals for last spring, and the $60,000 amount was the amount that D confirmed with us that they would be able to transport our students for. So this is the spending plan that was voted on by the school committee last night. We'll be adding we hope to add, pending the appropriation at town meeting, a second grade teacher. I'll discuss more about why that's important. You'll recall from my prior presentation to this board that we're adding a 1.0 reading specialist at Turkey Hill Elementary School. We're adding a 0.5 assistant principal here at the high school, a 0.4 music teacher here at the high school. Another new item with this $129,000 is some literacy professional development, which allows us for the support that we're putting in place for our primary and elementary teachers to be expanded to the middle and high school. You recall from my previous presentation that we have a 1.0 certified occupational therapy assistant indicated on this slide as a photo. Here for athletics transportation, I'm only showing $10,000. You're probably saying, why? You just showed us that was $60,000. The other $50,000 we will take out of our athletic revolving account, which is why I opened with that slide, for a grand total of $418,000. So the class size range analysis, this is actually not of August 3rd, this is actually of yesterday. No, it is August 3rd. We had 31 students in grade 2. You may recall we spent a lot of time talking about class size and the research around class size last time I presented. However, this is the exact slide from that presentation because I wanted to remind everyone that I was concerned about grade 2. I believe I said that it was a hot spot for us, that we're upping that edge of the number of students we could physically fit into a classroom. So we would have 4 classrooms of 31 students if we did not add a second grade teacher at primary school. With the addition of that second grade teacher at the primary school, that reduces our class size down to 24, 25 students. Last year, just for reference, our class size at grade 2 was 22 to 23 students. First grade class size is also large, but it wasn't in quite as critical of a range as grade 2 class sizes were. So the literacy professional support expansion. Really what we want to do is we want to create some cross-level alignment. So as students transition, there's instructional gaps, not instructional quality gaps, but there's gaps between the fluidity and the instructional plan. And this will allow us to build that instructional gap that you'll see as students transition from Turkey Hill to middle school, from middle school up to our high school. Using evidence-based methodologies. So this is going to equip our secondary educators with new diagnostic tools and strategies to help our struggling learners. And it'll provide targeted teacher coaching so that teachers feel supported with specialized coaching and collaborative planning around humanities and core departments. One of the things we're going to be launching this year is a new vision for academics, a new academic vision for the district, and literacy is one of the 5 pillars of that. So we are working really hard to not create an expectation without teacher support because that never works well. So those are the things that we would do with that extra $129,000. The initial list you saw was the entire 418,000, much of which we discussed at length at the previous time that I was with you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your concise presentation. Given the number of people in the room and online, I think the way we can do this is, and obviously there's a considerable amount of new information here, open this to the board for questions of the superintendent, and then we can open it to the public for comments and questions relative to Article 1. There is one additional piece of information that I want to advise the board and the public on, and this was raised during public comment at last night's school committee meeting. Selectman Emke raised the point that amongst the funding sources that were identified and came into the calculus for the 418 number was a number of, I believe, 5540.
41.
5541, which, change my math on my sheet, represents school choice credits. And these are all of, the cherry sheet pluses and minuses that we went through several weeks ago when we were talking about the changes to the cherry sheets. As it turns out, school choice account is not appropriated vis-a-vis the omnibus or town meeting budget process. This is one of those lines that goes directly into the school department and it does not require a town meeting appropriation. So it begs the question, the calculus for the 418 included the 5,500. What do we do? Because the school committee's getting that 5,500 anyway. It wasn't taken up by the school committee last night. It wasn't on their agenda. It did come up in a department head meeting, a committee chair meeting that occurs customarily the week before a town meeting, which I attended, which the chair of the select board attended, and which the chair of the school committee, as well as the town manager, the superintendent, and a couple of other people. Long story short, the issue was acknowledged. Conversation ensued about how to potentially cure this issue. And a general agreement was made, which is one of these issues that kind of needs to get satisfied by multiple committees now over the course of the next week, is to leave the number where it is for Article 1, the 418, but then use that 5541 to supplement sports and theoretically reduce the number required on Article 3, right? So the money that we would take from an available funding source, such as the RAP special fund, we would reduce that required number by 5541. It would allow us for a clean consideration of Article 1 tonight, and then will allow for the select board through the action that they need to take with the RAP special purpose fund, and the school committee through nailing down the final number on Article 3 on Wednesday, allow us to take up a single Article 3, ideally next Thursday. So I know that that's a lot of information. I just want to pause on that one as well. Like, that's new news to probably most people in the room. But an issue was raised last night, and there was an attempt to solve it over the course of the day today. Suffice to say, though, that 5541 that is effectively already on the school department's books, but would sit in Article 1, would essentially come from other available funds, UGA or something like that. But then it would basically be made up for in Article 3, assuming both articles pass.
And I did let the petitioner for Article 3 know that this was a possibility of happening at school committee this week.
Okay, great. Okay, are there any questions or comments from members of the board? I'm sure there are.
About the article?
Anything that's just unfolded.
I mean, not specifically about that, but.
About the article or anything that I just.
So we're ready to start
Yeah,
our
yeah.
discussion?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I have a question. You couldn't take Article 1 and amend it at the meeting to be 5541 less? Because we're not, I
Yes.
mean, you can't do that?
Well, the answer to your question is yes, that absolutely can happen. But then the decision to do that and what would be required to fix it with the school committee, for example, would not get resolved until Wednesday, and we would all be having this conversation to try to wrap up at least a recommendation of an article next Thursday, right? So there was a number of factors that kind of went into this discussion, but one of the things that I was aiming for was what can be resolved as early as possible, given the short timeline here.
I mean, the 5541, we don't need to do anything. That's going to be there
It's there now.
it's there now, that's their money. So, because putting in Article 3, then you're depending on Article 3 to pass, and that's not clear. I mean,
That is correct.
so.
Yes.
So it might be
There's a,
bunch of different.
there are scenarios here that we
Yeah.
can consider. Yeah. Any other questions or comments on the $5,500 or anything related to Article 1?
I have some questions.
Please.
to the van, how big is the van? How many?
It's a 10-passenger van. It's two 10-passenger vans.
210?
Mhm.
And that's going to be enough to transport, like, how small is I guess my question is, how small is our baseball team?
I actually
Because it's
don't know
usually
the
close
answer
to
to that
20.
question. I'm just going with the answer that Mr. Papazian provided for me with what teams it would be
Okay.
viable for.
Not related to the article, but you did mention that now we have a new athletic director. That's great because we lost, is he a full-time employee or is he?
He is a part-time employee.
Part-time, okay. Some of the funding is going to be used for assistant principal at the LHS. What is the status, after this is in place, what will be the status of how many principals and vice principals we have in this building?
We have a .5 principal that's split between the high school and the middle school. And we'll have 2 assistant principals for the high school and 1 assistant principal for the middle school.
So, and are those positions, the assistant principal, full-time?
They are.
Okay.
One of the things that I want to be forthright, because I think some people may have forgotten, is that our former finance director said that there were a couple of these positions that we could fund prior to the special town meeting. That .5 assistant principal here at the high school was one of those positions.
Okay, it's just for clarification. Sometimes we talk about adding and it's like, well, what's the total? Grade 2, you're adding a new teacher. How many classes, how many teachers do we currently have? That was
Without
in-
adding the new teacher?
Yeah.
That was one of the cuts that we made last year, so we reduced from 5 to 4.
So now we're gonna go back to 5?
Correct.
Okay. So it would have been 31 times 4, and now we're gonna divide that by, so it would be like 124 divided by 5. and
We
that's how you
have
get-
124 students fully enrolled in our student enrollment system.
Okay, and that's how you get to that
Currently.
number. Yeah, so, Peter, I have one more. The literacy professional development, I understood what it's doing. What I didn't understand is what we're buying. Is this a person, a teacher's course, a developed program? Is it a program, like a curriculum that comes and gets delivered?
It's
I
not
was
a
just not sure
curriculum.
about what is the tangible, if there is a tangible.
Yes, there's not a curriculum. It is professional development, and it is an on-the-ground team of literacy professionals that'll be, they're contractors that will be supporting our teachers.
Okay, and is that support's gonna be year-round, or just for like the professional development day?
No, it will be year-round.
Okay, that's great. Peter, regarding the 5,100, And I had a comment yesterday when that was brought up, which is like, we gotta get over squabbling over little money. I'm sorry. And, and when I say that, like, I just wanna, be very honest with some of these things, like, we eliminated the town band, we're closing the town beach next year. And earlier, a few weeks ago, there is a young man who's doing a Eagle Scout project that the town is gonna buy the material for him to build a sand shed at the DPW. That's gonna cost about $2,000. And, the funny thing is, as far as I know, we didn't have a give sand free program for our residents. We had a free sand for seniors that was supported by a grant. That grant went away. Our friends from Hollis Farm were gonna provide the sand, and the fire department was gonna charge to deliver the sand to our seniors. And, and that's the kind of thing we can squabble about it. But it's just such a waste of, why is this even a subject? Like, in my mind, I am still, the students of Lunenburg today are receiving $800,000 less in services than they did in FY26. So, in my mind, I think this entire difference, because we have a town budget that has been balanced, nothing has shown to be extra. The way, I have questions about how we're gonna use the funds for the snow, because we funded that with free cash. So that free cash is appropriated and is sitting on the FY27 budget. See, so like we have these buckets of money that we are just moving around. Like, I don't want to lose people when I talk numbers. I have been.
I'm following you entirely, so
Perfect.
keep going.
Okay, so we have this money that now we're gonna offset how we funded the snow deficit, but we've had already done that. I can see how we ended up with just 54,000 from that, but there was some wiggling around there that happened with how we are accounting for, how we are applying these funds, which is fine, but like, all of that, I understand, we're gonna figure out. But when we start squabbling about 5,400, I start to lose my patience a little more. So that's, that's all I have to say about that 5,400. In my mind, you're still $375,000 away from the level service from last year. And we already don't like the reading scores that we had of last year. I can't imagine what will be this year. So, anyway, I'm gonna stop because I'm getting a little heated about the subject of talking about $5,400.
I hear you entirely.
Thank you.
I can't think of a whole lot that I disagree with what you just
Chair,
said. So, yes, Tanya.
I fully disagree. 5K is a lot of money. I think that we should be squibbling over that, squibbling. We're in danger of losing the recreation department, whose beach services hundreds and possibly thousands of people over the years. And we're talking about 5K, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to some departments. It may not be a lot of money in the large sum the school is asking for, but I think that statement kind of diminishes the need town-wide for some funds. So I would appreciate, like, not saying that that's just a small amount of money. To some programs, to some departments, it's big. So that's all I have to say about that.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a question about originally, there was gonna be, I think, 52 seats for the Ignite, and now you're taking somebody, so because you got 36 seats, and you said, well, now I get a bigger pile of money, I'm going to give that, to create a second-grade teacher. So you thought that was the better option for the school, to get a second-grade teacher, to lower the number of kids in the class, even versus getting an additional 16 seats.
Correct.
And then you'd have other money to do something else with. But you thought it was the best use of the total amount of funds.
Correct.
Now, I think that's fantastic. I think, you're a professional, you know what the right thing to do is. You did say at the last meeting that you got a lot of value from smaller classes when you got down to the teens. So you're not getting down to the teens, but you're still getting value. So you
Correct.
still think that's the right thing to do.
I do believe it is the right thing to do.
And the other thing was, when you say 36 seats, because they're revolving, you can get more than 36, is the school going to be like saying, okay, these kids need the most, and they're gonna, and they're gonna get it first, and then at the end, so there'll be some kids who would have got it if we had 52 seats, but they're gonna get less value from it than the first kids that get it.
So we will be looking at our students' performance when assigning seats. The good news about this, and thank you for allowing me to explain the difference between seats and students in this case. Seats can be reused. So once a student hits a benchmark, they will exit the program and a new student can take their place, which is very, very important to understand. Last year, when we had this program, we only had it for very late in the spring. This year, we'll have these 36 seats for the entire year, so we hope to be able to cycle more students through the program. But you're absolutely correct. Students with higher need will be given a seat first, and then as they leave, the student with the next highest need, and hopefully we'll be able to cycle, create several cycles.
Anything else, Mike?
Nope.
Any other questions or
I have
comments
a
from the
quick
board?
question.
Fine.
Jody and Laura, thank you. I respect all of this. This is a wonderful presentation, and I see you're giving us choices here, which I love. I'd love to hear which one you think is the most important of the scenarios to fund.
Well, tonight I only gave you one scenario, the
Okay.
scenario that the school committee voted
All
on.
right, so which one was that?
And
One?
that was adding the second grade teacher.
Okay.
Last night, there were two other scenarios presented.
Yeah.
One was a comprehensive audit
Scenario
of the
two.
school district, and the third was the adding of a board-certified behavior analyst. All of which are important, all of which I wish we had the money to fund, but the school committee, with budget being under their purview, had a very difficult decision to make.
The funds that, under Article 3 that are being talked about for athletics, that wasn't one of the three options. You did not list, you're gonna have transportation for the high school, but you didn't, one of your three options wasn't to add additional sports or provide middle school sports. So
Last
what I
statement
gather
was
from
no.
that is you don't think all that's important. No one's saying that that isn't important. It's important. But if we have $5 and $20 of needs, we got to figure out where we spend those $5. And you wouldn't think that those things are as important as the things you talked about at the school committee, which was the audit and the
PCE.
mental health care
Yeah.
person.
Yes, I agree that with you, Mr. Gray, that everything is important. However, in a hierarchy of things that were important educationally to the growth of the school district, those were the three that I felt most pertinent to bring and important to bring forward to the school committee.
At this point, with these limited budget funds and the need for more money being so great, it's simply about triaging. There's no good option that doesn't leave other important services on the table. It's simply about trying to make the best choice for our students, but everything we talked about last night, quite frankly, should be funded.
One question on the audit. You're fairly new as a superintendent, and my experience in business was when you had a new leader, you usually had an audit, just to make things clean and check everything. We've also had a revolving door in the finance department.
Correct.
Was that one of the reasons that you thought that was an important thing and obviously still think is important?
That is exactly the reason. There's been different levels of competence in business director's seat, as well as several people filling them. I believe if we're able to make a hire, it'll be the fourth in a very relative short amount of time. As well as being new, I need to have confidence in our financial situation and our procedures financially.
I know it's not cool subject, audits. You know, it doesn't drive kids to the baseball game or reduce class size or help somebody who is challenged with issues. But it's pretty important that our numbers are real and that we have history of knowing that if we don't have the right numbers, we lose opportunity. So I support that use of the funds. I think it's a good thing to do if we can find a source of it. But I think it's not super sexy though. So, and there's nobody at town meeting going to be pushing for it. But I think it's something we should probably think about very carefully.
Are there any other questions or comments from the committee? I have one, but I want to make sure that.
Did we get an estimate on what that would cost?
No, it'd have to be a request for proposal, so I was benchmarking it at around $119,000. But we wouldn't know, and it would be a 3-phased audit. I wouldn't know though until we get the request for proposals back.
Please, yeah.
You said you need a request for proposal. Doesn't that fall under the category that you don't need to do that? Because it's like consulting, I believe consulting, there are categories that you don't need. And she's shaking, Madam Town Manager is shaking her head that is true, that I don't think you need a request for proposal.
So we should have a quote ready.
Yeah.
So we can find
it's-
money.
I think the biggest thing is to create a scope, if you have familiarity with it.
I have the scope ready.
So if you have the scope, theoretically, you can just, request an estimate from different companies. And then if you have the funds, you can use it.
Okay, excellent.
So no RFP, which
Where
is
the,
Thank
where
you.
the funds coming from for that?
Well, we don't know yet.
Nice.
That's
That
There's
we
no
have no
plan for it,
funds
yeah.
for.
Right, that, like, I know.
So, well, that leads to a good point that was part of my list of things that I wanted to talk about. We've covered most of it. But there's been a lot of email communication over the course of the last week relative to developments and whatnot from members of this board, as well as all over the place. And I just want to bring a couple of them and just kind of float them so that we can get them out there. The first is there a scenario whereby the school committee could bring forth a priorities list for found money? So in the event that we uncover additional funds or we save money through some unexpected savings in a line that we realize we can go and spend money someplace else. We found ourselves in sort of an emergency exercise this summer, but could it potentially be a practice going forward where we've got that order of merit list of things that we know we want to spend money on if we have the money?
I'll defer to Laura for that one, considering that budget is really their purview. I just advise.
We can certainly have a list on hand, but as you can see from changing priority, things change throughout the school year, and you remember the difficulty we had with budgeting, where you can't just make a priority list because what you can afford in total affects the plan for what to do with that money. If it's a very little amount, we're going to do different things than if it's a larger amount. And if we have a bunch of little things at the top, but then there's a larger sum, maybe we want to do the larger one. But I think we could have something, a guide.
I don't think it needs to be prescriptive, right? But it needs to be transparent.
Yeah. So it's difficult, but we can certainly, and I mean, you could give us money right now, and we could come up with
Come up with a way to spend it.
many different ways to spend it that would benefit students, and it probably still wouldn't be enough unless it was a missing amount.
So this next one is a topic that you may not want to answer right now, but I want to float it with the committee here because it's become a recurring topic of conversation that I'm interested in. Anna, I think, brought this up, quite a bit during the spring, which is the clarity and transparency around grant funding and how can we find a way to make it crystal clear when we're budgeting for something that's contingent upon a grant. If the grant doesn't come in, then we're spending the budgeted money, but the grant does come in, then what else are we spending the money on? Or, those sorts of things. And in my mind, I'm kind of anticipating like a chart with maybe 3 or 4 columns on it around budgeted, anticipated, and then a couple of scenarios whether the money comes or doesn't come. But I think that even as a school committee member, previously, I had tremendous difficulty with what was pending a grant or what wasn't, what was, the issue that we came up with today was what needs to be appropriated versus what's outside the omnibus. Like, I think we've got to come up with a visual way of showing these various permutations that is not just straight raise and appropriate.
So one of the things that I believe we've done differently with grants than what may have been done in the past, largely due to an accounting error where I'll give the paraprofessional example, which I think we're all familiar with. We had paraprofessionals budgeted in the allocated budget, and then we wrote a grant that had paraprofessionals in it. And we never charged that money for the paraprofessionals, which was part of a turn back to the town. We in fact didn't do that. Is we are no longer putting things that we think may be in a grant in our budget. So a perfect example is the Ignite seats. The Ignite seats, we knew that there would be an opportunity for the grant for. We never put them in our budget, even though we thought that they were valuable and they were important. They were not included in our budget ask. We are, with the exception of our 240 grant, which is our preschool special education grant, where that is the only grant where we currently have personnel, and that's our preschool paraprofessionals are in that. But all of our other grants, our entitlement grants that we know that we get every year, we are not including things from those in our town appropriation. There could be, which we'll be very transparent of, is something that we have in the budget that a competitive grant comes up for later that we may in fact get the competitive grant for. We can be very transparent about that, but it's not something that goes into the budget planning process, if that makes sense, because we don't know what grants are going to be out there.
Yeah. Again, I just think that we have to come up with a way to simplify this and make it easy to follow.
Yes.
Right, and visual if possible. Good. Go ahead.
I mean, on this subject, I think, I hear you, and it's great that that there's that clarity on, we're not double budgeting, you know. But I think ultimately what Peter is asking is there needs to be clarity of how we're using the funds available to us. And I think, you know, and one that we ran into last year, part of those long questions that, you know, the FinCom put it together and sent to different departments, one that I had requested was, you know, where's the budget for the athletic department? And because we used to get that. So I think it's more about clarity of how we're using these funds. Ultimately, you're going to use for the kids' education. It's just about, I don't know.
You're scratching on what I'm, you know,
Yeah.
I'm mixing my metaphors once again. I've done it twice today. But yes, we agree. We agree.
Yes, I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
One last topic, and I'm going to raise it, and I'm raising it because it's come up, and I've shared the ask with you already, and I kind of know your opinion, but I want it to come out publicly. If we find that there's newfound money or a competitive grant or something that covers stuff that's in Article 1, and we don't need that money for whatever reason, will you turn that back to the town?
I will not. I will make it publicly what we are allocating that money for, but we have so many needs as a district right now, and that turning it back to the town is not something that we would do. It would be, again, a public school committee process, but as you see, we have two other priorities, right, already on the board. One being the audit, the very unsexy, to use Mr. Gray's term, audit, as well as the BCBA. And I want to talk about that position a little bit That's actually newly risen to the top. Last week, we found out about 3 new out-of-district placements that we're going to have. The average cost with transportation of, if the student doesn't need a bus monitor, is $156,000. That is a lot of money, and we found out last week about 3 of them. Part of the reason that BCBA rose to the top is we knew that these were coming, and we wanted to be more preventive to stop any additional ones from coming. So there's always a need. I will continue to be, I think I've been very transparent about our processes and what we're doing. I will continue to be. I've committed, once I get a finance director, hopefully I will, to providing quarterly reports and a line item and transfer summary to this team quarterly. That's in the definition.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more thing, and then
Sure,
I'll be done.
all right.
As a finance professional, I'm extremely nervous about allocating one-time funding to salaries. I think that's kind of common. I think people get nervous about it because we don't know what's going to happen. Do you guys have a contingency plan in place for like next year? Because we're not getting any richer here in this town. We're not getting any more money. We can't forecast, a lot of things. So if you hire these, these positions that you have on here, which I want you to have, and then next year we don't have the money, then what? What's your plan? Is there a plan?
There isn't a concrete plan. The
Okay.
plan is to do a needs-based budget next year and to perhaps make cuts in other areas, right? If we find that our class size holds at 31 students moving into 4th and 3rd grade classrooms,
Yeah.
and we need that teacher to move up with that grade level, then I think it's incumbent upon us to find other areas, even though it's getting more and more difficult, as it is for everybody in town.
What would some of those
to
places
cut.
be where you would make cuts? Like, what would you think?
I
That we
think-
didn't do this year, that might have been a possibility.
Yeah, I think, looking at things like the high school schedule with a scalpel, right, rather than a chainsaw. I think looking at that is one area where we could provide savings. I think, unfortunately and unpopular, will be extracurricular activities. Our primary responsibility is to educate students. So that will be a place that we look. It'll all come down again, like it does every year, to a game of competing priorities and where the school committee feels my recommendations are just, my recommendations aren't just. They want me to go back to the drawing board, as they sent me back to the drawing board this year. But that will all be part of the public budgeting process.
So you're not planning like another 2.5 prop or something?
I am
Or-
not currently planning on that.
It's the town's responsibility to do that. These budgetary pressures on the schools has led to this. It's led to a decline in reading scores. It's led to class sizes of almost 30 kids.
But you're
Putting the budget,
separate.
all
Can't-
of
Could
these
you go
budget-
for your own 2.5 prop and leave the town out?
Why can't you go for your own 2.5 prop?
We
and
could.
Give us what we need.
We def could.
I
But
mean,
I'm just,
why
but
is
we're
it
not,
on
we're
us?
not
Why is
here.
it
I
on
just
the
want to know
schools?
what your
Why?
plan is. Is like,
My plan is to get us what we need.
okay.
You guys need 2.5. Go get 2.5.
So you
Stop
don't
putting
plan
it
on
the
doing that as the school committee
No.
next year?
No,
You plan on
we've done it.
taking
It
from
failed.
someplace else?
Students
Okay.
are hurting, parents are irate,
Okay.
we're done.
Alright.
I'm not playing the Prop 2.5 game anymore. I am not allowing us to take these cuts. These cuts were unacceptable this year.
No one's disagreeing. I just want to know the plan. Like, there's 2 plans. Take it from somewhere else or go for a 2.5. So you're not going for the 2.5, so you're going to take it from somewhere else if we don't have the funds to fund the positions that you're asking for tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the town is welcome to go for a 2.5 override, but it has been multiple years of putting that pressure directly on the schools. And this is the result, that we are now talking about eliminating extracurriculars, cutting down the high school schedule, which is already, there was just an article on Mass Live about how students are not able to choose the classes they need. We had to add a .4 music teacher to to teach gym, this is where we're at.
Point to where that schedule will be to teach.
Okay.
To teach-
I was like, I didn't see that.
No,
But, okay.
The music teacher
What if
will also
athletic and
do
musical? I love
PE
it.
because we are having students.
Multi-talent.
Multi-talented person.
I
We
think
have
the-
students that are worried about being able to graduate because they cannot fit PE students in. None of these are good options, but this is what happens when a school is chronically underfunded.
I feel like you answered, differently.
Okay, this is a public hearing. I want to open this to questions or comments from the public. Please stay where you are.
I think
That's
there's
okay.
somebody on
Okay.
Oh, no, he's just telling what camera.
Zoom. Oh. I thought he was telling us to do something.
No worries, no worries. I am monitoring Zoom. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public, either in the room or on Zoom? Mr. Rogers,
Just an editorial comment.
why don't you take the microphone?
Just hold it. The acoustics in this room are terrible. What?
You're speaking too close to the microphone.
What are they saying?
Too close. If you hold, you gotta hold it like this.
I see. Well, the bottom line is, I think the acoustics here need working.
I agree.
At the beginning of the presentation here, there were three, I believe, packages of monies that were talked about, I think. There was $100 and something thousand here. There were monies that were talked about, okay? At the end of the day, is that to be considered as surplus money? Can we do other things with it? Or is it allocated? What is the direction that would be going in with those
Sure.
funds?
In the interest of brevity, let me attempt to answer the question, and then if somebody disagrees, please make yourself known. This was, first of all, a citizens-led petition for a special town meeting. So normally, we would seek to figure out what we're doing with our cherry sheet adjustments that come out mid-year at a special town meeting in November. This special town meeting is an out-of-cycle special town meeting that was driven by a citizen's petition. And this particular article, Article 1, was brought forth for the meeting, for the special town meeting, by the school committee. So this is a school committee-led article. And it is attempting to draw funds from the changes that were made to the cherry sheets as a result of the final legislative budget that was signed by the governor at the beginning of July. And the dollar value that was attached, or better word, that was used to supply this number, this article, was largely drawn from, actually entirely drawn from the delta in the cherry sheets, right? So, Chapter 70 adjustment, smart growth adjustment are the two primaries, I believe. Madam Town Manager, give me another one.
Non-school related, the
UGA, those sorts of funds. And so the source of funding is effectively state aid. That's the source of funding, from multiple lines on the cherry sheets that come from various state aid lines. And the genesis of the petition that led to the special town meeting was a desire on the part of citizens to attach that money to the school department. That's effectively where we're at, right? Once we shut down Article 1 from the public hearing, we'll move to Article 2, which, by the way, is substantively similar because that was the article that was the precipice, is that the right word? Precipitator? Good word. For the special town meeting, right? And we'll deal with that separately. But I hope that answers your question. I don't know if it does, but, and does anybody think that I was wrong?
I'm not sure it does, because maybe because I can't. Maybe. No, oh, yeah. Moon River. Maybe I'm not explaining it properly, but I thought I heard about 3 packages of monies. And I want to know where they're coming from and how is that going to be used in the scope of things? And is it to be considered surplus or usable in other areas? That's all.
Were you talking about the scenarios
Yeah, I
from
think he
the
is.
school committee
Okay.
yesterday?
Those are spending scenarios.
Yeah, there were
They
3.
don't-
Where's the money come from?
The same, what I just described,
State,
state aid.
the state.
It's state aid.
The extra state aid, the increase in state aid between what we built the budget on and then what the governor ended up signing.
Which needs to be appropriated at the special town meeting next week.
And each of the scenarios were separate, and each of them, we're gonna spend that amount of money, or estimate that amount of money to be spent. And then the school committee voted for the scenario, which was, I think, 2 for the second grade teacher. But that also includes the full-time reading specialist, the half assistant principal, .4 music teacher, and other things. So that's where all the money's going. So the other 2 are tabled for now. We're not talking about those. Just,
But I think I heard that at least one of the group of money was in excess of $100,000.
That was just one part of it. Each one
Sorry.
had like each one had different breakdowns. Each scenario had different breakdowns of multiple different monies, and they chose scenario 2, which had a $100,000 one in there. It had 131 for a teacher. So the breakdowns were the same in each one, and like that equaled the same amount. So they're just choosing number 2 over all the scenarios, but it does have multiple, and I think you have a sheet here if you want to, maybe I'll let them look at it paper-wise, of the breakdown, how the money's going to be spent.
I don't know if it's necessary.
Oh, you don't want to?
No, I'm not sure. You guys are doing such a good job.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we are.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
I mean, everyone, this is the one that was presented yesterday. Do you want a piece of paper?
No.
Okay.
I can print it.
I always like to look at something. That's why it's
Yeah.
up on my laptop, because I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
Mr. Rogers, any
Yeah.
further?
I don't think I explained it properly, and that's my fault. But the bottom line is this money is coming from the legislature. And the money that's coming from the legislature is being used in various areas. And those areas include a new teacher for 100 and something,
Yes.
and other allocations in conjunction with the fix problem with the reading program.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's perfect. You should explain to us. That was perfect.
Would you give me a note to that effect for my wife?
I would.
You don't. Thank you. I'm just trying to find out where this all is
It's
going to
not,
happen.
it's not self-evident or
No.
crystal clear. Okay. Any other questions or comments from members of the public? Okay. Thank you, Madam Superintendent and Ms. Brzezowski. Let's move to Article 2. Mrs. Gilman.
Come on down. Hi, Mandy Gilman, 186 Reservoir Road. I'm the lead petitioner on Article 2 for the special town meeting next week. And so I'm here just to explain my thought process and to
let folks know what my plan is for next week. As a citizen, I led the effort to collect the signatures to force the special town meeting, because I believe it's very important that the schools be given this money next week so that they can hire staff for the school year. And once the citizens so wonderfully showed up and signed our petition over 5 days, it took us 4 days to collect 300 signatures, I approached the school committee as a member and asked if the school committee would rather go through the school committee budgeting process to make a suggestion of where the money is spent, because the point of me working with others to force the town meeting was not to go rogue about how the school would spend money, that I want the superintendent's input and her priorities. So my intention next week is to ask the town meeting body to pass over Article number 2, because I want Article number 1 to pass, and that is my consideration. But I'm happy to answer any questions, if people have questions about that. And I've publicly stated that. Laura did ask me yesterday at school committee meeting if Article 1 were to fail, what would I do? And I would also pass over 2, because if Article 1 fails, there's no details in Article 2. We haven't done any work to get into details. And, I respect the public if that's how they want to go about it. Is that good? Let's see. Anything else? Thank you.
From my perspective, are there any questions from members of the board?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or comments?
I appreciate the effort, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I said it the last time, you weren't here,
Yeah.
but I appreciate you taking charge. I know Peter mentioned a minute ago, this was a citizen-led effort, but in reality, the school committee on June 24th voted to request the select board to call on a special town meeting when the budget was signed, and that happened on July 9th. And wasn't until, I think, July 16, 17, nothing had happened. You took the matters into your own hand, and you made it happen in 45 days. So I just want to, it wasn't precipitated by her. It was precipitated by lack of action by a body.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to say, Tanya, I do respect your question about year over year. But all these years I've been involved in the schools, I've said my kid only gets to go to 6th grade 1 year.
Yeah.
And those second graders are only going to get to go to 2nd grade 1 year. So while we are in not a great position and I'm worried about next year, I feel to my core that I have to do what I need to do every year to get the most for our students. And, I'm class of '01. I love this district. I love this school. I love this
Just
town.
age yourself.
So,
Yeah.
even though sometimes it drives me crazy.
You like us?
I like you. I said I love our town. Yeah, you know me. I'm a proctor. Gilman versus Johnson versus, I was a proctor originally.
Are there any questions or comments from members of the public on Article 2? Madam Emke.
Yeah.
Ms. Emke.
Oh, sorry.
Renee.
I'll move over. It's a little awkward now.
I just want to clarify a comment that was made, not specific to Article 2,
Yeah.
but since it came up during this
Yeah.
discussion. I presented the timeline at Select Board meeting, I believe, on July 21st. Final budget was signed July 9th. The school committee met July 15th to vote on the spending plan for the additional state aid. Superintendent communicated the result of that vote to me on July 16th. The petition for the special town meeting was submitted July 20th. Once I received the results of the vote, it was added to our next select board meeting, which was July 21, open meeting law. Hello, welcome. You have to post 48 hours, blah, blah, blah. We went as fast as we could. Once we had all the information in hand, I feel very confident and comfortable in saying we went as fast as we could. That's all.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments relative to Article 2 from the public? Hearing none, we'll move to Article 3. Okay.
Thank you all for all you do and all your meetings you attend.
So, For Article 3, Mr. Nazarenko is on Zoom, and I would ask him to, I'm sure he has some comments to join with us, but I do want to kind of set the stage on a little bit more on Article 3 because of where we seem to be going with respect to the quote-unquote available funds that we're seeking to transfer in Article 3. So I shared with the committee a day or two ago communication from the town manager, which represented her understanding from calls with DOR about how to treat the RAP funds. And I think I don't want to go into the brutal details of the RAP funds, but if we need to, I'm sure the town manager will come forward and explain it as best she can. But effectively what needs to happen if we were to tap the RAP funds to fund Article 3 is that the select board would have to form or establish a special purpose fund with some amount of funding from the RAP funds. And only after that special purpose fund is established can it be used to transfer to fund Article 3. So sitting here tonight, we do not have a targeted funding source, but we may come Tuesday, right? Like that's the mechanics of how this whole thing is likely to unfold. Further, the school committee met last night and came up with a number of $45,849. And that represents middle school sports as it was previously constituted, minus, I think, a fall sport or two, because it's too late to do those. Transportation for those sports, as well as to fund high school sports that were cut in the last, as a result of the current fiscal year budget, which led to that number of 45,849. So it's all in middle school sports for what we can fund and all in high school sports for what we can fund. There's some ambiguity around some sports that we don't know if we're going to have enough people to field a team. That's another issue, but the 45,849 represents what we hope to do, or what the school department hopes to do. I talked earlier in the evening about the 5541. So there's a handshake agreement at this point that needs to be ratified by the school board on Wednesday, that they would use their 5541 from the school choice funds to backfill that number. So sitting here tonight, knock on wood, I don't know what to knock on, but I think the number that we're swimming toward is $40,308. Now, there's a lot that can transpire over the course of the next 7 days between, given what we've been through the last 2 weeks. I don't know where we're going to land. But sitting here today, I think that that's the number. So let's assume it is. The scenario would be the select board has to discuss this, determine if they want to create the special purpose fund on Tuesday night. It's on their agenda, I believe. They can vote to do it. The school committee needs to discuss the breakdown of the 45,849 and validate that they're copacetic with that approach. By the way, they did last night affirm that if Article 3 passes, those dollars will be spent on sports. So we at least crossed that, or checked that block relative to the questions that came out of our meeting 2 weeks ago. And then we would bring this all together at some point, either before or on town meeting floor, and have the full story. But today, all we have is a lot of placeholder, you know, plans still relative to this, to how this article comes together. So, Madam Town Manager, did I just explain things?
I have nothing to amend.
Okay. I'm an amateur at this, so I'm doing the best I can. Okay, so with that, I want to invite Mr. Nazarenko, who is the lead petitioner for Article 3, if you have anything to add to this discussion, or say whatever you like, actually.
Thanks, Peter. Matt Nazarenko, 79 Rodsville Road. The only thing I'd like to add is that my understanding of last night at the school committee meeting is that they will fund athletics in the spirit of how the motion was written. And my understanding of that is if women's lacrosse was funded through this motion, but only has 9 girls who can play, we would not have a women's lacrosse team because you need 11 to field a team. That's the only clarifying statement that I would add to what you and you just discussed. But yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Happy answering questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to add one more just point of fact to this that I think is likely to come up at town meeting, so we might as well just surface it tonight. The way the article is written in the petition, it's for the purposes of supplementing the athletic department budget to reinstate middle school sports as well as provide transportation for student athletes. Now, if that is to be taken literally, that creates a problem with respect to funding high school sports programs. And that was discussed in some detail this morning at the committee chair meeting. Now, keep in mind, this is a citizen petition article, and it was not written under or with the advice of town council. Once it was submitted and town council got a look at it, and this conversation ensued about what we can and can't spend money on out of the article, town council reminded everybody that relative to the issue we talked about this morning, earlier in the meeting, we can allocate funds to the school district, but we can't earmark those funds for a particular purpose. That is against state law. So what town council effectively advised during this morning's meeting is that if you take and put a period after supplementing the athletic department budget, that is the effective end of the legal portion of the article. The following words relating to middle school sports or providing transportation actually does not have legal bearing. It's sort of a moot point, right? So when the article is moved finally, and Mr. Nazarenko has to kind of work this through, where we landed, I think this morning, is that it needs to actually be moved in more general language than what is written in the written article in the warrant.
I was just getting up here, Amanda A. Gilman again, is that I think, Mr. Nazarenko, I agree with what you said. We did say on the women's lacrosse front that we would try to find a co-op if that, so the funding would help us as well approach that, approach another
That's an
town.
important detail.
Possibly. I think that's an important distinction.
Which I think falls under the intent.
Which falls under the intent,
Following
I
the
think, but if we only have 9
Okay.
girls or,
Madam Town Manager.
sorry.
Yeah, just to clarify, Mr. Chairman, I think that it's even more broad than that, the period is even possibly before athletics, that it's really
School department budget.
school department budget.
You're
And
right.
just
I
wanted to
apologize.
clarify.
That is an
Okay.
excellent clarification. The period should go after operating budget. Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
got up to make the point that you just made for me. That was, a town meeting they can direct funds to the school department, but they cannot direct how the school committee spends those funds. There are political reasons for this, there are protective reasons for this, for students. But the school committee voted last night to follow the intent and the spirit of the article. So hopefully that will put.
So I
line
raised
base.
this because I think it's likely to come up as a question.
As it
So
should.
I think we should be
It's a very fair question.
very transparent about it. So, okay. Any questions or comments relative to Article 3 from members of the board?
Is that number going to be updated on the warrant to 45,
You-
whatever?
So the warrant will not be, the warrant is the warrant.
Okay,
The motion will be in the spirit or aligned legally with the printed article.
okay,
We will get a motion sheet prior to town meeting, as we
Okay.
typically do. It's a little bit different because of the nature of this town meeting.
Yeah.
It's not a select board-led or town manager-led town meeting, but we will figure out how to cobble together a motion sheet.
Okay.
And we'll all have it. What town council basically said is you can't do more, but you can do less.
right.
So the number will likely be stipulated as a number that is substantially less than $151,000.
Clarification of the issue.
Sure, Mr. Rogers.
The vans, so-called. Oh, thank you so much.
Not too close.
Story of my life. Okay. The question I have is, the vans have been approved.
Yes.
Okay. How is the funding for the operational aspects of the fee?
So when the superintendent presented last night and again earlier this evening, she outlined a substantial change in the projected transportation budget for athletics. So if you recall, when we were all sat here talking about an override in town meeting in the spring, we were looking at $120,000 in athletics transportation. That number has been cut in half, and we are now at roughly $60,000 in athletic transportation. Now, the vans are not solely the reason for that savings. There are other reasons, such as renegotiating with D-Bus, scheduling, some sports that we didn't run in the fall, but there's an expectation that, at least with respect to baseball and softball, and potentially, I'm gathering, I think track will be positively affected by this as well, as my inclination on this. The vans will contribute to that cost savings.
No construction for garages and that sort of thing?
Not to my knowledge.
I don't believe so.
What are we going to do, just park outside?
Leave it in your driveway.
Yeah. How meet it the way this thing is going. No, seriously, I mean.
No, I mean, it's a fair question. That has not been provided.
Drivers.
So the superintendent has outlined that there is a certification program that needs to happen for these vans under state law and
Yep.
pupil transportation and all that. There is a plan to do that involves coaches and other staff. And there's also some impact bargaining that needs to occur as a result of this, that the school committee and the superintendent need to work through with the LEA.
So there's some,
There's work to do.
Yeah.
it's still $60,000 new, right?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from members of the public or the board, for that matter, before we close this thing down? Going once?
I'll just say that, no, I was gonna say real quickly that Article 3, as I asked the superintendent, would you want to put money towards transportation and sports? She said that's not a top of her priority, but now the school committee is saying that they are willing to do that. Now, is that, I'm gonna just assume that the school committee is saying that because that's the will of the people, they pushed the article and it's 41,000, and we want to do that. I don't understand.
So
Yeah.
Tom, before we get into answer on this. I just want to be very clear. Article 3, as the school committee discussed last night, is going to fund middle school sports to include transportation for middle school sports and potentially 3 additional high school sports. The transportation, the $60,000 that we just referred to, is actually captured in Article 1.
Right.
Okay?
The 60 grand.
Yeah, yeah. And you're right, it does represent a change in philosophy or direction, so.
So, I don't want to speak for the whole school committee, but I would say my understanding of last night is the school committee doesn't have a position on Article 3, but if the public is willing to vote it through and give us the money, we will spend the money how we have been asked to spend it. Is that, would you say that? I mean, we could take a vote next week if people want to, but I think the point being that it's not our top priority, but the public has asked for it. They have gone through the process to collect the signatures. It's very important to some people, and we would never, I don't say never, but, we have agreed publicly, and we will spend the money how we are asked to spend the money, even though legally we are not required to do
But
that.
you are giving the additional 5,400 or 5K from.
Yes, we'd have to vote.
supplemental
Yeah, that was something,
fund,
I
or
guess Laura meant
what was
about,
that?
we didn't talk about that
School choice?
last night, but
So you
yeah.
are kind of giving part of your
Yes.
actual school budget over, and then the remainder will come from the town to the school.
Yeah, that's my understanding. We didn't talk about the 54 or whatever it was
That-
last
that
night,
needs
but
to be
that,
discussed.
but we need to talk about that next
The
Wednesday.
school committee has not considered what I just.
We didn't talk about
Oh,
that yet.
that's just your
This
plan.
literally came up this morning in a chairs meeting, so.
Well, it's just small money, so we
this-
should just give it.
This needs to be affirmed by the school committee next week.
Okay, okay.
Luckily, we have a meeting the day before town meeting, and also town meeting counts as a meeting.
Yep.
We can certainly do it there, too.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's why I was confused. Is that why you were confused, Tom?
Yeah, well, it just seems like,
Confusing.
it's just confusing, yes.
Renee?
I think, before I ask, I have questions for Matt. Is Matt still online?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Hi. Before I ask those, I think maybe if I can address Tom's question, and Laura and Mandy can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the distinction is the school committee is not looking to fund Article 3 from the school budget, but if given the money from some other source, they will support the spending as intended.
Yes, I think that's a better way to say it.
So maybe that's where,
Right,
I'm
okay.
kind of guessing that's where your confusion came from.
Yeah, okay.
So I came here tonight really to get a number, as much of a firm number as I can on Article 3, because we need to decide on Monday or Tuesday, hopefully, what we're going to do with RAP, even independent of Article 3. So, Matt, I think I'm most familiar with the middle school sports, and tell me if I have this right. The $19,349 will fund middle school girls and boys basketball and outdoor track and the transportation that goes with those sports. Is that correct?
My understanding is that is correct, less the 50.
Oh, yeah, okay. But that is the cost to fund those 3 sports plus?
That is the information that I
Okay.
have from Jody, and I'm gonna have to go with those numbers.
Okay.
'Cause that's what the school committee is saying they are.
Okay. I'm less familiar with the high school sports. So I think, if I read the email correctly, that would restore high school, the ski team and girls lacrosse.
Yeah, the girls lacrosse numbers, I would say that were provided are accurate. The ski team, I have significant questions about, just because I know that it was a co-op with Leominster and Narragansett. My 8th grader was potentially going to do ski team this year, so we're kind of trolling the rosters last year and looking at where everybody played. And it looks like we did not have a substantial amount of players at our town, so I don't know how that works with a co-op. It seems to be somewhat of an enigma with how that is funded, so I cannot say with certainty that ski team costs $15,000. I know that if you're Lacrosse also made a fairly deep run in MIAA playoffs last year. They had an exceptional year. So the transportation number for them would indicate a semifinal run into the MIA playoffs, which I don't know how the school department budgets for playoff runs. So I think that if I were to be in the finance committee shoes, in your shoes, I would say the women's lacrosse number is fairly solid. It's not going to be any higher than that. The ski team is probably overinflated by some amount. I don't know what that is.
Okay. Is girls lacrosse also co-op?
My understanding was girls lacrosse last year was not co-operative, had to co-op this year.
Okay.
I defer to science school committee for that, because they've talked to AD. I'm casually soliciting questions to people I know that play lacrosse on if they could actually field the team this year, and I haven't received anything back, because I've only asked people who had kids who graduated or transferred.
Okay.
I think
Do you know anything about girls lacrosse?
I know about as much as Matt does. I have a sixth grader, but I think a lot of the kids transferred and they lost a big group of kids. So I just don't know how many girls are going to play lacrosse this year. So, it's a possibility.
I do know additionally, Mandy, that
Yeah.
she's now 8th grader, but 7th grader last year, the girls lacrosse coach did reach out to her and said, "We need bodies. Can you please play varsity lacrosse as a 7th grader?"
Yeah.
So that could happen again, and they're going to go to the well. They'll probably pick from the field hockey team and the soccer team and basketball team, and see who's not running track and who wants to play lacrosse and doesn't want to play softball or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
That's kind of how the sports works here, and it's worked.
Agreed.
So Matt, is your plan in your motion to include both the high school and middle school sport and the transportation that goes with those? So do you know?
My intent through this whole process was to restore as many school boards as possible and all transportation. This is not a petition just for me. This is a petition from a lot of athletic parents in town, golf parents, ski parents, lacrosse parents, track parents, and some middle school parents. So I would like to restore as much as possible. This is not about me and my kids. It's about getting everybody the opportunity to play a sport for the town.
Okay. And
That
that,
would be my preference, Renee, but if the funding does not exist, and I get a phone call from somebody saying, "We have X, and this is what we can fund with available funds," and it only covers middle school sports and transportation, or it only covers middle school lacrosse and high school lacrosse and middle school track, or whatever, we have to have some discussion about what we want to do. This is going to be pretty fluid, I think, up until next week.
okay. Okay, all right, thanks. Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Is there any other comment either from the public or the board, or questions from the public or the board relative to Article 3?
I just want to thank Matt for putting this forward. I know it wasn't a very, people were surprised you were doing that, but I think, it's we got to be able to communicate with our government on what's the priority for the community, and I think this demonstrates that this is an important item for the community, and so good job, and, keep it up.
Thank you. Okay. Hearing or seeing no other comment, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I for myself, opposed? Public hearing is hereby closed. Let's move to deliberation. So with respect to Finance Committee recommendations for town meeting, there are 4, you guys all know this, you all know this, you've done this. There are, but for the public's benefit, there are 4 options. We can recommend to approve, we can recommend to not approve, we can find that a article has no financial bearing, no financial impact, or we can defer to town meeting. Those are our 4 options. So the way we'll do this is I will bring up article by article. I will entertain discussion on the articles, and then a motion to recommend approval, disapproval, no financial impact, or defer. Article 1, is there any discussion? Hearing none. Is there a motion?
I move to make a recommendation for approval of Article 1. And I might have a mild migraine, so I don't know if that was a
Oh, I'm
complete
sorry.
motion.
Sorry. Is there a second? I will second for purposes of discussion. Discussion.
Where is the money coming from?
The state.
Why is it coming from the state?
So this is cherry sheet money. So we, as part of the budget process, we include recognized revenue during the budget process, initially from the governor's budget that projects things like unrestricted government aid, Chapter 70, all the lines on the legislative government aid sheet. And this represents there is newfound money as a result of the final passed budget that represents several $100,000 additional to Lunenburg that was not accounted for in the governor's budget in January. The budget that they landed on in July gave substantially more money to Lunenburg that was not accounted for at town meeting. So this money has not been appropriated by the town. So there's a raise and appropriate activity that needs to go to recognize that money and then drive it to, drive it to a destination.
But the town is not receiving money.
Well, we receive the money throughout the year as a result of the state's contributions that they make regularly throughout the year as a part of the state aid program. I'm sure the town manager can explain the cash flow, but this is like tax revenue or excise tax receipts or whatever, it comes in over the course of the year.
I have a question, Peter, and you probably know this because you've met with the department heads. Do you foresee any significant changes, updates that are going to be coming about based on select board meeting or school committee meeting that we may want to defer this to special town meeting when we get, if there's going to be any more information given or votes taken at those 2 meetings?
Great question. Sitting here tonight, I think that Article 1 is pretty solid.
Okay.
Is very solid. Now Chris is gone this week and next week, so you guys are stuck with me through next week. If there's any reason to believe that there's a change in relevant information to Article 1, and we post, or we find ourselves at town meeting where we need to reconsider this, I will absolutely entertain a motion to reconsider it, and we can go about it through that process. But my aim, as I described what I encountered this morning at the chairs meeting, is to get us to drive forward to resolve whatever we can tonight, and then take the action that we need to take next week as information becomes clearer. So sitting here tonight, I'm confident in Article 1. I don't see any reason that Article 1 is going to change.
I mean, I feel.
But I can't say 100% because boy, the last 2 weeks has been crazy.
I just want the option to be like, forget it, I changed my mind. No,
Yeah. No,
I just.
I don't think we're ever locked in
I
until
know,
there's a vote at town
because,
meeting.
we did hear from Laura and Jody, and they did say that contingency plan, both options, 2.5 is not gonna be an option, if the funding isn't there next year, and they're going to take from other parts of the, budget, and they've named those parts, then, I feel like there's at least something that we can go back to next year when this comes up again. That's my concern. My second concern is also the lack of a finance department in the schools right now, by no fault of anybody's, but like, this money's gonna be in there and somebody's gonna manage it. So who is that person? You know, it's not Jody's fault. She's new and it's been revolving, so like
And
that.
it's not the second graders or the athletes' faults. or
No,
the- you know
it's
what I
just,
mean?
it's just
It-
concerning to me, like,
I agree.
we're voting to allocate money and there's no one managing it, so.
Well,
Oh, so see, something could change. See that? Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter who, if there's someone in there that's managing it, so, okay.
I guess there's the $5,541 that is already, has to go to the school. That's the only thing would be any different, because we're saying we're gonna give it to them when we don't have to.
so the Article 1, the number, there's, candidly, there's more money available than $418,000, right? The money, the number on this article was arrived at by largely tallying the money that was credited for education, right? That's how that 418 was gotten to, right? But there's more money beyond that. There's UGA, there's other sources on the cherry sheets. So what this would effectively do is eat into some of the other money for Article 1, but then that would effectively be credited back vis-a-vis Article 3 if that were to pass, right? So there's a bit of accounting here, but it is effectively $5,541 more than the education tagged dollars on the cherry sheet. Any further discussion or comments? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Oh, we already did.
I think we did that.
Any second.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have the headache, and
I'm the one with the migraine.
Thank you, okay. I'm sorry? So the intent right now is that Article 1 would be moved as written in the warrant. So the number is 418.56.
So then
All
vote.
those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Article 2.
It's over.
So we've heard from the petitioner that she intends to pass over Article 2. I think that the most prudent way for us to handle this is to defer to town meeting.
Agreed.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye for myself. Anybody opposed? Article 2 is unanimously deferred. I'm out of practice, but when I was chair like 4 years ago, I had this down in like a
You gotta get-
rhythm, and I'm like way out of
It's
rhythm.
like riding a bicycle. You'll
I'm
get
way
used to it.
out of
You'll-
rhythm.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, right.
Okay, Article 3. Obviously, I think we should take some time to discuss this evening, if you guys feel we should, but I just want to, you guys all know my bias, I think we need to defer on this one, given how, the lack of completeness on this one. But is there any discussion on Article 3?
I'll just say, Mike, that if the final number is relatively small, 45,000, and the school committee is, understands that, then, I'd be fine with it, but as it stands now, it's not even close to that, so my recommendation would be, we defer until we get, and maybe even till the town meeting when we all the numbers are put together and we have a final thing that we can vote on. Right now, it's too many unknowns for us to vote on. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I have to say about this article is that for all that, you know, with the, you know, it is actually a state law that, you know, we can call it special town meeting, 200 signatures. Special town meetings require 100 signatures for a special article. It's like it's a state law. It's a tool that we have as a town, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I have great respect for the community telling us that this is a priority, that, you know, we should take care of it. I appreciate the school department, you know, working to find funding for a large portion of it. So, you know, I like the spirit of it more than anything. So I see myself supporting it, even if it's coming from, you know, special stabilization funds, because, you know, I think we're like a 6.5% on that budget. It's a small amount, it's in the millions, we have other funds. It's not going to put the town at peril for funding, financial peril for funding this one article, even if it's at the 150. And I think it's, you know, like I said, I appreciate the spirit of it, and I think it kind of guides us to next year when we're doing budget. The community has told us this is important, and hopefully we won't be here next year. I also think it's you know, it takes a lot to put these programs together, to eliminate the middle school sports program that was put, you know, in more recent years. It takes a lot of work to put those programs together. I know a lot of those programs got started with parent leading. So I would even be okay with 150, because I think it wouldn't put the town at any financial peril based on our current reserves.
I don't feel comfortable voting on numbers that aren't there, so I definitely want to defer.
Yeah,
I think we can still vote on this.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
all for it. I'm
So
happy for the
and
150.
By the
I
way,
would definitely
defer, not defer, whatever, I think,
Yeah.
you know, in the spirit of Anna's comment, I think if we have opinions relative to the article, we should share them tonight, or we could defer them and share them next Thursday. It doesn't, you know.
I mean, as it stands, I want to say yes, but I need like real numbers.
Okay, totally fair.
That's all.
I want to add just, first of all, I completely agree with Anna. But I agree we need solid numbers. Like, I wouldn't want to vote to recommend that,
Yeah.
but I agree we need solid numbers. But I agree entirely with the spirit of
Yeah,
numbers.
I wasn't suggesting
I
we
agree with
vote
you as
today.
well.
So, this is personal to me, probably a little bit more personal than I should let it be, but it is personal. I have, as I spoke about in town meeting last spring, I have about to be a senior in high school who's on the autism spectrum. He's extremely high functioning, and he has gotten every service known to man, largely as a result of Lunenburg schools and a mother who insisted upon it. But one of the greatest stories of his success started actually during COVID, when Steve Kajonian saw he and I at Global Fitness in Leominster and looked at the kid's giant, and he said, you're in the 6th grade, you need to throw shot put in the spring if we can run sports in the spring. And he pointed to a record that had just been set in shot put. And the kid has been maniacal for 6 years as a result of that program that candidly did not exist in 2017, right? We are only 10 years into our middle school sports program. But, you know, I can't imagine his story without the middle school track program. He immediately found success, latched onto it, and it really developed a whole bunch of skills well beyond the athletic realm, right? It gave him an opportunity to be a leader, a mentor, a learner, coachable, like all the things that middle school sports begin to teach at a very young age, and then really set up our kids for greater success when they get to high school. And so, for me, it doesn't benefit me or my kid, but I want all Lunenburg kids to have the same opportunities that my kids had. And this is one of them, and whatever we can do to save this project or program, I think we should do.
Agreed.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Is there a motion to defer?
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye for myself. Any opposed? We are unanimous, we are deferring.
Peter, I think you still have, now that we've finished this part, you're still gonna have a quorum. I'm just been dealing with a lot of migraines. Is it okay if I get excused?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that, first of all, it's getting late. Can we just skip right ahead to scheduling then?
Sure.
And have that conversation, and then you go and take care of
Okay.
yourself? And I don't think that there's a whole lot substantive we're gonna cover tonight.
Okay. Yeah, so the 6 o'clock, because I think you're gonna be talking about.
Yes, that's exactly the topic.
Right, it's more challenging for me to be there for 6 o'clock. If we have it, I usually show up. I know it probably won't be on Zoom, but it's a challenge for me just because how my schedule works and how I have, but.
Jay also had a potential conflict or challenge with 6 PM. So, one thought is, it's kind of informal, we find space in this room and do it like literally minutes before town meeting. Is 6:30 more feasible, where, you know, we push it, we let the moderator get things going, and we come in right at 7, if we push a meeting to 6:30?
So, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I have, point, I'm gonna be in New Hampshire, probably traveling back. and
You're gonna get here
forth.
at 7.
So, I don't know what time, I know how long the appointment's going.
Okay.
So, I may be able to remote in, but if I'm driving.
I don't want to do that remotely. I think, okay.
That's-
So, I mean, the other option is we do what Chris has historically done, is we caucus live in town meeting, which is totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I was actually talking with someone Tuesday about it, it's, you know, we have our votes, which are nice and dandy, but, you know, our process, I think is what brings a lot of clarity to voters, so, yes, hopefully we're not talking 20, having to, you know.
I just
figure
don't want
out-
to prolong it or make it awkward.
I understand, but I think people might be interested on, you know, some of our insights, and like that, I think sometimes that's more valuable than first the vote per
Okay.
se.
We'll caucus at town meeting.
Okay,
Problem solved. And I don't have to post it
wonderful.
okay. Go home and.
All right,
get well.
appreciate, sorry
Yeah.
about that.
No. I want you to feel better. Okay, let's move quickly. Old business, financial-related policies. I have nothing to add. Madam Town Manager, do you have any new news on that topic?
Slightly.
Okay.
So the new news that I have on that topic is that in our conversation that we had earlier this week with the Department of Revenue about RAP, I did talk to them about bringing out their subject matter experts for some of those conversations. So they are happy to do so. The way in which they have those discussions with communities is a little bit different, so we'll have to talk through that because they're not in public meetings. They are exempt from the public open meeting law for educational purposes, and they would be FinCom, Select Board, I would imagine School Committee as well. But yes, they absolutely do engage in those areas where they come out and provide additional background for some of those topics. So when we talked to them, they said no problem. I would get them over the topics, and then we can start on scheduling.
Okay, great.
So in those meetings, we couldn't come to any agreement, we just learned.
Correct.
And then
That's correct.
then we have a.
That's correct. You could not deliberate, and they said that they are extremely cautious about controlling the questions and the narrative so that deliberation doesn't weave its way into the discussion.
So it's not even a workshop, it's more just information sharing?
It's information sharing,
Okay.
right.
All right.
And then after that, the idea was that after everybody gets a little deeper baseline, that then we come in and
Yeah.
dive in. Yeah.
I mean, I think so, I'm the newest one to the table on this, like, so I know the least in terms of what our intentions are. My expectation would be that you and Chris would probably orchestrate this as soon as possible, whatever that means. Okay. While you're there, anything pertaining to funds balances? I'm not even sure what that means.
Balances, I don't know
It's on the
why
agenda.
Mr. Menard had that on the agenda. No, there's nothing pertaining to fund balances today. We are getting very close to our closeout.
Oh, that may have been the topic. Chris and I have not discussed this. Trust funds. I think that there was an issue that was brought up a meeting or two ago about, can we get sort of a complete view of revolving accounts and trust funds? I think that was the,
Yeah, you
We got it
received
last-
that at the last meeting. You received the Q3 revolving fund and special revenue fund accounts, all of them.
Okay.
And Karen is in the process of closing out fully. I think we're probably a couple week or two out from closing. And then we will have the full picture of how all funds across the organization close out.
But I also provided.
Go ahead. Yeah, oh, and the trust fund report as well.
okay.
So,
I clearly have not read this.
that's okay.
But, okay, obviously this is gonna stay on the agenda, so we'll cover it. Okay, operating protocols, this is me. So, last week, 2 weeks ago, I distributed a hard copy of operating protocols. I did not redistribute it in soft copy, not really by design, but because I've been dealing with town meeting stuff for 2 weeks and I didn't think about it. That being said, I absolutely don't want to discuss this substantively without Anna and Chris here. So, for the most part, I think we need to defer. I had hoped to have a conversation tonight about how we're going to do this and the process, but candidly, I think Anna needs to be part of that discussion as well. So, if anybody has any thoughts around, do we want to do it or not? And/or the process that we think we should follow to do it, please send me that feedback, and then I will consult with Chris in terms of how we lay this out. I don't think this is a single meeting kind of issue. I think we need to kind of discuss the issues that are raised in the proposal, bring new ideas, delete others, whatever it might be, and then kind of come up with a edited version, and then consider that as a final proposal, is sort of my general thinking on it. But I think that there's probably a coordinated receipt by either me or Chris of line item points that we want to get organized in an actual meeting. But we can discuss the details of that in the next meeting. I just want to get it out there in terms of the extent of my
Let's just get through
thoughts.
next week.
Sorry?
Let's just get through next week.
Damn right, yeah, exactly.
Then
Okay.
we move on.
Minutes, thank you, Tanya. Minutes, July 23rd minutes were emailed to us. Has everybody read them, or are you ready to vote on them?
I read them.
I
I
did.
recommend approval.
Okay, we have enough votes to pass it.
We do.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from July 23rd. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye for myself. Opposed? Abstaining? Okay, so the minutes are approved 4-0 to 1. Committee reports. Are there any committee reports?
Just municipal building committee is still working. We're meeting actually on Monday, talking about things. Our chairman is pushing us to come to some decisions, so which is good.
Okay. Do you anticipate that you will bring any substantive information about that in terms of recommendations or anything to us at some point?
I think there would be, we're trying to figure out how far we want to go along. We've already went back to and went back, I think it was to the select board and said, you know, these are the things that we think, and we voted on it. And then now we want to get into what we want to do in that thing. And I'm not 100% sure what we're going to be able to do without money. And we spend a lot of money already to do a lot of stuff, and none of us have any appetite to spend more money, but we might need to, so.
Okay. Fair.
We'll see.
Okay.
Parks and Rec has met a couple times. We're obviously trying to generate some revenue to keep it alive. But I do want to just put out there that Touch a Truck is coming up.
Next.
Tomorrow. And it's at TC Passios as opposed to DPW. So come on out. Bring all your kids, last minute stuff. It's gonna be great. Yeah.
I also believe, your comment just prompted me, I believe the football team and the football boosters are doing an event out in the parking lot.
Great.
Tomorrow night as well. Yeah, like a tailgate party or something, so, Friday Night Lights.
Full day,
So, yeah, lots of fun tomorrow,
stuff,
in and around Lunenburg, so. Okay, any other committee reports? School committee met last night, would you like a detailed report of the
No,
school?
please.
Okay, I'll skip it. Actions and topics for future meetings. I think we are repeating a lot for future meetings. We will be meeting, obviously, next week is the 3rd, and September 10th is our next scheduled finance committee meeting. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. I need a motion.
Well, I'll make the motion.
Oh.
You can
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye for myself, opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good meeting.